Project Artworks began with some residencies in special schools, and we worked experimenting with materials and processes to enable a whole range of children with quite profound disabilities to make art on their own terms in whatever way they were able to. We had an exhibition of that work in 1997, and then in 2000 we formed Project Artworks, and we've had a sort of gradual growth that has been slow and incremental, but has always centred on the people we work with. And we work with about 40 artists and makers a week now in our studios, and we have a whole series of sort of local, national and international exhibitions. That idea of authenticity, of self-direction, of presenting, enabling, and using high-quality materials, materials that are, immediate in the way they work, has followed through into the whole studio program now, which is quite well established.
I mean, we hold an archive of works, Project Artworks, of around 5,500 works, produced mainly by people who access the studio. Because we tend to work with people over a long period of time and develop these very deep and trusting relationships with them, families, support teams, that the archive starts to reflect like these bodies of work from individuals actually. And so to professionally archive all the work is, we feel, to give it value, and also what the archive, by holding all these works, the archive itself kind of represents the value system of the organisation in a way. There are some images made by people that are no longer with us, and there are records of people's lives in the archive that perhaps it's the only record of their life. So we've presented the archive as a thing in a number of ways in different exhibitions, and here we've decided to sort of unfurl it on the walls.
And we knew that, for example, we wanted to use paper, a lot of works on paper. So you can define that in the database. So that was the first point of decision making, and then we started to draw in individual pieces that we particularly needed to make the balance of that all work. And we used sort of colourways, but like on this first wall we used a little bit of a cosmic theme along the top and a grounding theme along the bottom, because the exhibition itself is so vibrant and colourful. We talked about, having quite a graphic front to the exhibition that's quite monochrome. So we used cosmology at scale. The cosmology is a drawing of the networks and interdependencies that people who have need for support in all areas of their life are impacted by. The central circle involves the individual and family and caregivers, and it moves outwards through systems and circumstances and different forms of support alongside state systems that have to be navigated in order to achieve support. And on the very outside, not hemmed in by a circle, is a sort of sense of freedom, things that we take for granted, like choosing who you live with, being in wild places, being close to the sea, choice in what you do, and also being able to change your mind, and things that are just like everyday experiences for us are much harder to achieve for people if they're dependent on others for all areas of their support.
The film, which we called I've Got Ideas, Don't You Worry, after a line from the film, is a film of the studios and the studio practice in Hastings, and it shows some of the artists whose work is in the show, but it also sort of shows these moments in between the kind of making, because it's also a place where you can fall asleep, or you can just sit, or you can talk, And it's about the idea that our work's all about relationships, essentially, like the relationships people have with materials, but with each other, and this acknowledgement that actually all these amazing kind of works that come out of the studio are made in lots of different ways, but what they all do represent is this sort of time spent together. I wanted us as an organisation to sort of celebrate the kind of relationships that happen and the kind of honest reflection of how this work's made.
I think there's also a comfort for us when we're doing these sorts of installations to have them with us. And it's been really nice to be that they're actually in the space, the artists. Not all of them, obviously, but a representative group.
This for us is the start of the much deeper kind of relationship building and community building. And so we'll be having a week of workshops happening each month throughout the exhibition. So 5 weeks of workshops altogether, and that will build this kind of relationship, but also build a kind of body of works that get made by the local community and kind of adds to the richness of what we're doing.
You can normally start a session by maybe walking around the exhibition and kind of talking about that, and then the studio is designed to be flexible, and so we can move boxes and shelving units into spaces where somebody might want to have like a little enclosed area to do something quietly, and other people might want to make more of a kind of dynamic, expressive, maybe messy piece of work. So it's about all the artists that work with the people that visit will work in a way that's very kind of led by them and have a lot of experience and skill at kind of assessing what that person might want to do and how they can feel comfortable in the space.
Explorers came out of the collaborations that we do with other cultural organisations, where we take a lot of the learning from our studio based in Hastings into these projects with other galleries and museums, and we started that in around 2010, I think. It was this kind of form of partnership working, and it was about this idea that we wanted the people that we work with and supported to see themselves more reflected in the audiences and programming of cultural organisations. So we did this work where we would map the social care sector around that organisation and then work with the whole staff team of that organisation, sometimes having an exhibition, but always with the idea that we were to kind of engage marginalised groups with the gallery, and with the hope that then those relationships would continue in our absence.
For some institutions, they are centres of a community, and actually that all of that community needs to be represented in that institution. We've had these, really important kind of social movements that have brought, people from the margins into cultural spaces, and it feels like, the communities that we work with have still been left in the margins, and so for us it's been about bringing those people into those kind of cultural spaces as well.
If the end goal is kind of social change, then we know we can't do that on our own, so we feel like we're a small part of perhaps a much bigger thing, which is a good place to be.